Hello everyone. Today I've got this solution set for you in economics for class 12th Ncert, and we will solve the first solution set of chapter 1 Introductory Microeconomics. So here are your questions. First of all, what are the questions we are going to cover? Discuss the central problems of an economy. Then we'll do question number 2, which is what do you mean by the production possibilities of an economy and what is the production possibility frontier. Then third question will be discuss the subject matter of economics. Further, distinguish between a centrally planned economy and a market economy. Also, what do you understand by positive economic analysis and normative economic analysis? And last but not the least, distinguish between microeconomics and macroeconomics. So these 6 key questions, which covers the entire first chapter of the book, are here, and we are going to start with the solution. So the first question was discuss the central problems of an economy. It talks about any economy in general. So from an economic point of view, if we see, then production, exchange and consumption of goods and services are among the basic economic activities of life. The whole economic phenomenon moves around these 3 major points. Now, in the course of these basic economic activities, every society must face scarcity of resources because resources are limited in supply. And so this scarcity of resources gives rise to the problem of choice making. Since the resources are limited in number, so we have to make a choice so that our needs can be fulfilled. The scarce resources of an economy may have competing usage, like one resource, number of resources are limited, so one particular resource can be put to many uses. In other words, every society has to decide on how to use its scarce resources. So if we see, then this whole situation can be categorized in few major questions. So the very first question that arises here is what is to be produced and in what quantity it shall be, so that needs can be fulfilled. Under this question, the main point that covers the main points needs to be taken care of are that every society must decide on how much of each of the many possible goods and services it will produce. Like what are the necessary goods and how it should be produced in what quantities. Whether to produce more of food, clothing, housing, or to have more number of luxury goods. Like whether more of the production of the basic necessity should be done, or there should be a more of concentration over the luxury goods. Then whether to have more agricultural goods or to have industrial products and services. Whether to use more resources in education and health or to use more resources in building military services. Right? So this is we are covering in under the first question. These are the points that shall be considered. Whether to have more of basic education or more of higher education, and whether to have more of consumption goods or to have investment goods like machines, because it will boost production and consumption tomorrow as a result of it. So this is the first question that arises here, which can be also said to be the central one from the central problems of an economy. further. The next question that arises is, how are these goods produced? First central problem says what should be produced in what quantity. Second central problem arises and it moves around the point that how these goods should be produced. Now this question means that every society has to decide on how much of which of the resources to use in production of each of the different goods and services. There are mainly two types of techniques: labor intensive and capital intensive. So under this we have to decide which mode should be used, whether to use more labor or more machine, which of the available technologies to adopt in production of each of the goods. Now after this second central problem comes the third one, which says, for whom are these goods produced? First was what, second is how, and third is for whom. Under this for whom central problem comes this point. So this problem means who gets how much of the good that are produced in the economy? How should the produce of the economy be distributed among the individuals in the economy? Who gets more and who gets less? Whether or not to ensure a minimum amount of consumption for everyone in the economy, and whether or not elementary education and basic health services should be available freely for everyone in the economy. So the very first central problem deals with what is produced and in what quantities. The basic problem is. Then the second point is how it should be produced, which technology shall be used, or which mode should be used. And third is the problem of distribution, like how it should be distributed and how it should be distributed fairly. So that was the first question. Now the second question in the chapter is, what do you mean by production possibilities of an economy? And I have merged the next question also into it, that what is a production possibility frontier? So production possibility, as the name suggests, it tells you about how much of production is possible in an economy, taking into account the availability of resources, which are scarce in, actually quite scarce in nature. So every society has to determine how to allocate its scarce resources to different goods and services, because resources are limited. And we can see that the population is rising like anything. So there creates an imbalance between the user and the allocated resources. Now an allocation of these scarce resources of the economy gives rise to a particular combination of different goods and services. Now given the total amount of resources, it is possible to allocate the resources in many different ways. Also this allocation can be done in many different ways. The purpose is that they thereby achieving different mixes of the possible goods and services. The collection of possible combination of the goods and services that can be produced from a given amount of resources and a given stock of technological knowledge is called the production possibility set of the economy. Because these are the possible combination, that's why the word set is being used here. It talks about the possible combination in the economy, possible combination of goods and services which can be produced when the amount of resources is given and technology is given. That is simply the production possibility set of the economy. Now there is an example. I picked a very simple example of the production of corn and silk. Let us assume there are only two things to be produced here in the economy, and the entire resources of economy is being used to produce these two things, either corn or silk or the combination of both. So this is being shown in the next table here, table 1.1, which gives you some of the combination of corn and silk that an economy can produce when all the resources are fully utilized. Now, as you can see, the first column shows the various possibilities, showing 5 combinations A, B, C, D and E, where combination in the first combination, combination A, there is 0 production of corn, whereas the maximum possible combination of corn is produced 0 unit and silk is produced here to the maximum possible production of 10 units. Also, you can observe a pattern. Here it's increasing and here it is decreasing via nature. Further, we'll explain it a bit more and create the logic here. So now if all the resources are used in the production of corn, the maximum amount of corn that can be produced is 4 units. Okay, here it is shown. And if all resources are used in the production of silk, the maximum production of silk which is possible is 10 units. Now also the economy can produce 1 unit of corn and 9 units of silk. Also 2 units of corn and 7 units of silk. Further 3 units of corn and 4 units of silk. So there are many possibilities, meaning to say that there are many possibilities for this distribution and making a combination where something can be produced more, whereas another thing can be produced little lesser as per the requirement, as per the given amount of resources as well as technology. So these possibilities shows here different combination of corn and silk which is possible. So that was production possibility set. Now what is production possibility frontier? Here you can see there is a curve. On the y-axis there is silk, quantity of silk being given, whereas on the x-axis quantity of corn production is being given. A, B, C, D are the same combination factors showing the different combination of corn and silk that can be produced in an economy, and this curve is the production possibility frontier. The production possibility frontier, which is in short PPF, it gives the combination of corn and silk that can be produced when the resources are fully utilized. As I'm telling you a number of times, I've already mentioned that the constraint is the resources are limited and the quantity is given and they are being fully utilized, so no more extension is possible. So here is a curve that illustrates the production possibilities of the economy. Any point on or below the curve represents a combination of corn and silk that can be produced within the economy's resources. Now the curve gives the maximum amount of corn that can be produced in the economy for any given amount of silk and vice versa. Okay, meaning to say that combination A shows a particular ratio of the unit of silk divided by unit of corn. So it shows a ratio between the two, or we can say that it shows a combination between the two. Similarly for other points here. So that is why it is known as, so this particular curve here is known as the production possibility frontier. Clear? This curve is the PPF. Further, so the question third is discuss the subject matter of economics. As we know, traditionally when we talk about the subject matter of economics, it is basically studied under two broad branches, which is microeconomics and macroeconomics. As we know, the name itself suggests micro means a particular individual unit, whereas macro talks about the whole entire entity. So in microeconomics, we study the behavior of individual economic agents in the market for different goods and services and try to figure out how prices and quantities of goods and services are determined through the interaction of individuals in these markets. Small markets, small unit, individual units. Here I have highlighted few basic words that make you able to easily understand and go through this. It studies the behavior of individual economic agents. It talks about price determination. It talks about quantities of goods and services. Now if we talk about macroeconomics, here we try to understand the economy as a whole by focusing our attention on aggregate measures. Since we are talking about the economy as a whole, will be dealing with aggregate measures such as total output of the economy, total employment of the economy, and aggregate price level of the economy. Okay, so this is the basic difference between the two, and the two comprise subject matter of economics. Different branches are also being developed now that I've already talked about in my earlier lectures. I've formed a complete playlist of different intro lectures of different branches of economics that you can scroll through my channel and find very easily. So here we are interested in finding out the levels of these aggregate measures. We are talking about macroeconomics here, to remind you. Level of these aggregate